Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. My name is Janie Charlot, and I am here with co-host Russell Bruce.
Hey, hey.
All right, so in this podcast, we are talking about love is law. All right, and we want to talk about this in a very cosmic, universal, infinite, a law that's always working with no respect to person. So we want everyone to expand their minds and their consciousness. So we know we often hear love in relation to romance and family and children, but we really want to expand our identity and our definition of love in a very cosmic way. So we want to break that down today. Love is law.
All right. So let's start off. I'm going to read something here for you. Imagine, if you will, a hidden code, a sacred blueprint that underlies everything in existence. They aren't man-made laws constrained by time or geography, but cosmic laws, timeless, universal. They don't govern our actions with the threat of punishment, but guide your life towards a greater wisdom and fulfillment. They've shaped your past, they'll shape your future, but most importantly, they can illuminate your present. And so basically, when we're mentioning today, love is law, we're thinking about love in its truest essence, right? So we've done a podcast before and we mentioned this, where we ask people, what is love? And if you were to ask 100 people, you're going to get a lot of different answers, but I think the one that might show up the most is going to be God is love. And I think most people would feel that way, once you have a little conversation that goes a little deeper. And so if we're saying God is love, then love is the law, because God is law. So when we think about God, we're also thinking about nature, something that's natural, right? So if we look into the ancient world, let's say Egypt, for the most part, it's one that comes up most in conversation, right? So the hieroglyphs, the ancient word was called the Medu Neter, meaning the laws of nature. So what they were inscribing were ways of life and law based upon universal or natural law. All right, hopefully I'm not losing anybody there. So nature, God, and the law are one and the same.
And love, right?
In love, because love is law. And like you said, it's no respecter of person. So when in scripture, it mentions that God is no respecter of person, the law is no respecter of person. Everybody must obey law or else there's consequences, whether it's man's law or universal law. So we can go a little bit deeper here into the differences.
So just to recap, to make sure we're all on the same page, basically, love is law. God is law. Therefore, God and love and nature is all on the same page, same frequency. Now, Russell, before we move on, should we define love, God, and nature?
Yeah, and once again, we're going to come back to the same thing, right? So when most people think of God, I think historically most people have been I guess, duped into thinking that God is this man that's up in the clouds, that's watching everything you do. And it's a white man with a long white beard and long white hair, which that is the furthest from the truth, right? I think if we're going to be honest and really look at what God is, God has to be tied to some type of energetic force, something that's has no beginning, no end. And the only thing you could think of is energy. because energy is that one thing that has never been created nor destroyed. It just moves, change, shape, or form. In nature, once again, it's that one thing that we can observe that is immutable. It's like every insect, every mammal, every reptile, human beings, we are all subjugated to that same law, whether or not we believe it exists or not. Because once again, we were speaking earlier, the law of gravity has no respect to what your religious persuasion is. You can get a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a Buddhist, whatever your religious affiliation is, you could stand up on 100-foot cliff and jump. The law of gravity is no respecter of what you believe. The law is the law. And how you line up with the law is going to determine your fate.
Yeah, let's break that down a little bit more. So I want to compare this universal, cosmic, timeless, infinite law of love to the very finite, limited, boxed in, constrained laws of man. Okay. And to give you an idea, in your state, whether you live in Georgia or Florida or Washington or wherever, you have to have a driver's license to operate your vehicle, right? That's a state law. You have to, you have to be registered to vote in your state. That's a state law, right? Those are man-made laws. If we go a little bit further back, slavery, that was a man-made law. Segregation was a man-made law.
Man-made law.
Okay. We have man-made laws of religion.
Definitely.
All right. The Catholic faith, I think there's these steps that you make, right? You have to have certain things that you have to do as you progress in that religion. So religion, there's religious laws that are man-made. So, and these laws change, right? So we had slavery, we had segregation at a particular time and space. Those laws were in act. Now they're not. So I want to just make it clear that cosmic universal is principles and laws that are always working beyond your state, beyond your universe, beyond your religion, beyond yourself. And you could be on the right side of this law, or you could be on the wrong side. Now, these laws are always working, whether you know about them, whether you believe them or not. They're always working. So I wanted to compare, the man-made law and the very cosmic universal law that govern all of creation.
Right. And like what you were just saying, it's like we live in a country where at one point slavery was legal. Now, is that the law of God or was that the law of man? That was the law of man.
Facts.
And then also it was different from state to state. Not all states had it. So there were some states that did not agree with it and some that did. And so when we look at these things, right, it's like, and even the changes that have occurred, or say the revolution that took place in the 60s that brought about great change for people of color and women, you have people who were fighting for what they felt were righteous, the MLKs, the Malcolm X's, the Kennedys, and they're fighting for what they felt were closer aligned with the law of God versus the law of man. And that's when you start to see change. But why is it that man does not just start off following the laws of God instead of the laws of man? And early on in this United States inception, and matter of fact, even beyond that, right? Because we would have never come to this point if it wasn't for the doctrine of discovery which happened back in the 1400s, right around 1452, when the Pope, deemed it legal for them to go out and conquest other territories that where people didn't believe as they believed. They referred to them, as heathens and all these negative connotations, and made it legal for them to go out and conquer their lands and enslave them and pretty much just rape and pillage. And anybody that agrees with that, it's an ungodly act, and that's what occurred. And if we look here at the history of this country, it affected many people, the native, the indigenous, the aboriginal people of this land. And as most people now are starting to discover, there were all kind of so-called Black, Mongol, you name it, they were all here. Even there were white folk here even before Columbus even got here. And these people were all subjugated to this doctrine of discovery. And in the early inception, they tried to use the Bible to have some type of law to govern the land. But when man gets involved, of course, there's going to be corruption. So there were all kind of amendments and changes to the original constitutions that they found here in this land to create another one, to place one group of people at the top and others at the bottom in a system of perpetual slavery. And today we have people who are under this law of the land, and it's just really slavery of another name. It's more of a mental slavery than it is a physical chattel slavery.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you will be protected under the law of love, even though you may seem to be going in a different direction of what the consensus of what man is doing. So when you are operating under the law of love, under this universal cosmic law, and you are on the right side, you will always be protected, regardless of what that situation looks like at that moment and what it looks like to the rest of the world. You are always protected under the law of love.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
So that's important to know. And let's talk about what is it like when you're under the law of love. Love brings about peace. Love brings about joy, happiness, perfect health, abundance, prosperity.
All that is good.
All that is good.
And that's why they said the return of Christ, aka Christ consciousness, would bring more life in abundance.
Yeah.
And it's really just understanding how to live under the law. So we always hear about the law of Moses, right? But those are religious philosophies. So it's like you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we all need a starting point. So I get that. And this is not to bash anybody's religious beliefs. I think they all can help us to become more spiritual. I think they're tools, but also I think they could be boxes when people are really wanting to grow. I think you have to be open to new information and new knowledge to grow, right? Because it's like, how does the world change? It's like every year we discover something new, whether it's out in space or in the sea or out in the forest, we're discovering new things, and we have to recalculate and rethink what it is that we thought we knew for something bigger and better. So it's like there's a saying, when man stops learning, that's the day he begins to die.
Facts. And I'm going to read off the 12 laws of the universe, because when you follow these 12 laws, love is what you get in return. You actually get love by following these universal principles.
Facts.
So, and a part of why we're all in this earth classroom is to evolve our souls into the perfection of what it already is, right? So, there's a lot of dense, polarity in this earth, but it is to evolve above that. So the 12 laws of the universe: law of divine oneness, law of vibration, law of correspondence, law of attraction, law of inspired action, law of transmutation of energy, law of cause and effect, law of compensation, law of relativity, law of polarity, law of rhythm, law of gender. We have several podcasts on these universal principles because it is my belief, and actually proven to me over and over again, when you follow these universal laws, you get exactly what you want out of life because you're in alignment with the law.
It's like a fish swimming with the flow of the stream instead of going against it.
Exactly. We suffer, and we suffer greatly when we are out of alignment with the law. All right. Love is the highest frequency and vibration that we could ever tap into. And when you actually use these other 12 principles and laws, love is something that you are, by divine compensation, going to receive regardless. So, and that is in alignment with God. So,
yeah, I think when we put this particular podcast out there, we'll connect the podcast where it goes a little bit more in detail of these laws. But I'll read one off here to you for the sake of time. We can't read them all. We'll go ahead and give you a few of the nuggets. So the law of divine oneness signifies that we are all connected, that we are all part of a divine infinite energy that is much greater than our individual selves. It teaches us that every action, every thought, every word we speak is not confined to the peripheries of our individual existence, but reverberates through the universe, affecting the whole. It's our understanding, it's the understanding that your life, my life, and all life is interconnected and interdependent. In recognizing the law of divine oneness, we understand that no one is alone. We are on this journey together. We are not merely drops in the ocean, but an ocean in a drop. For if all we see, feel, experience is an extension of the same divine source, then love, kindness, and compassion become the logical response to all interactions. It's about treating others with the same respect and care that we would want for ourselves. Understanding that a hurt inflicted upon one another is a hurt inflicted upon yourself. This law is the epitome of the golden rule: treat others as you wish to be treated. So how can we apply this principle in our everyday lives? Start by recognizing the divine in every individual you encounter. Treat every interaction as an opportunity to express kindness and understanding. When you speak, let your words reflect your understanding of this unity. When you listen, do so with empathy that stems from knowing that we are all branches of the same tree.
So with that being said, we're all one. And we should be seeing the God in each other, the divine in each other, the love in each other.
Exactly. And right now, we all have to agree that we are living in a land, in a world that has become somewhat lawless. And that also means godless, that we have turned our backs on God. And not to be preachy here on this Sunday, but I'd like to read a Bible verse here that I think kind of sums it all up, because we have not only stopped following God's law for the most part, men, even the men in power and women, aren't even following the laws of the land. So 2 Chronicles verse 7:14 says, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive them their sins and will heal their land. So love is law. And once we return to love, which is law, which is God,
and love for all things, people in creation, divine love,
then things will change. And that's the only way it's going to change. We don't need any more martyrs. We don't need any new religion. We just need people of the law.
All right, guys, this has been another episode of Matters of the Heart and Soul podcast. This is Janie, Charlot,
and Russell Bruce.
And we appreciate you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. And this podcast, Matters of the Heart and Soul, is inspired by love, relationships, spirituality, justice, culture, family, children, finances, freedom, personal growth, energy and vibration, universal principles, health, education, masculine and feminine principles, music, and all things of the heart and soul. Our mission is to reconnect our hearts with our minds for perfect alignment. We appreciate you guys and take care. Until then, lots of love, lots of light.
Peace.